you. I read this book and I can't even. This is a really weird book. How do I describe it? How do I tell people how it feels? What am I supposed to do? Does anyone else feel the same way? How do I turn all my fangirl feels into intelligible thought? Don't worry, because with my tips, you'll be a pro reviewer in no time. Salutations! Welcome to Learning the Language of Literacy. My name is Sophia Lee, and today I'll be teaching you how to review books. There are 3 levels of things to consider when reviewing. Number 1, the rating. Number 2, the review type. Number 3, the elements of the book. Regardless of having or not having reviewed a book before, I'm pretty sure that you've at least rated one. There are so many things that can impact the rating of a book, such as the impact it had on you, the feels it gave you, how much you related with the characters or the plot. There are also little things to consider that can take off half stars or even more, such as the perspective the book is told in, how much you laughed, or how the book ended. When reviewing, the classic scale is, of course, stars out of 5. But if you would like to get more specific when writing or filming reviews, you might want to try out percentages, which is, of course, out of 100. Let's discuss a little bit on the different levels of the 5-star rating. Of course, there's the infinite 5 out of 5 stars which you can give to a book, which is, of course, the highest possible honor, besides the fangirling moments where you just want to give the book all the stars possible, which, of course, isn't possible. I actually think this might be the easiest rating to determine, mostly because when you've read a 5-star book, you know that you've read a 5-star book. The characters are on point, the plot was well written, the romance was simmering, and the entire book is just a wonderful creation that you want to push onto everybody. Then we have 4 to 5 stars, and most of the time in my experience, and I'm pretty sure many others as well, the 4 stars are given either where it was an overall a good book, where all the elements were well written and you enjoyed them, but they weren't over the top and they didn't have the extra oomph to them to make it a 5-star book. Other times what can happen to me is that there was just one little but significant thing that makes it 4 stars. Maybe it's the ending, where the entire novel is great, but the ending completely ruined it. Maybe it was that annoying side character that you just couldn't stand. Maybe it was the author's tone and the mood of the story. Then there is the 3 out of 5 stars, and I think this is actually the hardest one to give, as well as the hardest one to gauge in terms of people reading your review and seeing your rating. Merely because 3 stars means different things to different people. Most of the time when doing blog tours, you're required to give a book 3 out of 5 stars to participate, because you need enough positive aspects to advertise the book and not hurt it. Personally, if I were to run a blog tour company, I would want the reader to give the book 4 or more stars, just because I myself, and I have seen as well, a lot of 3-star reviews where a lot of the negative aspects are touched up upon. Of course, it just depends on how much you reveal as to why it's a 3-star book and how much time you spend talking about the pros and the cons. But if it isn't equal, then it's really not a 3-star book, because the reader will think it's either closer to a 2 or closer to a 4. A lot of times for me, 3-star ratings are given just when I had some serious issues with the book, I didn't love it, but at the same time, I didn't hate it and thought it had potential. Then we come to 2 stars. I give a book 2 stars when I disliked a lot of it, but I didn't absolutely hate it, because with 1 star, you really are delegating the author to the land of hatredd. Meanwhile, with 2 stars, you can talk a lot about the crappy romance, the undeveloped characters, the unoriginal plot, but most likely there is one endearing quality or one factor that made you hold on to actually finish. Then, of course, there is the 1 star, and I've actually only given 2 books out of the 110 that I've read so far this year a 1-star rating, and that is just where I could not stand it and I really should have DNF'd it, but didn't, because I thought it might get better. It's where I basically hate everything, and a 1 star is pretty self-explanatory, as well as pretty dooming for the author. 2 last things I want to touch up on about ratings. Number 1, it's really hard, and you probably shouldn't compare books like Twilight and Les Miserables, because they aren't on the same scale. You aren't expecting to get the same feelings and the same emotions out of them, so it's not fair to put them on the same scale. For another example, it's really hard to rate something like Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas and Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson, simply because of the huge difference in genre. To break it down even further, it's really hard to compare a cutesy contemporary versus a book about a girl who wants to commit suicide. For me, it all comes down to expectation, and I rate the book according to that. My second point to bring up is that your opinion and your rating can change over time. So even if it's a few weeks after you've read the book and you feel like you want to change the rating, I would advise you at least make a note of or mention that you had a higher or lower rating previously. I know this because a lot of times if I give a book a 4-star or a 3-star and then I come back and I think about it, it probably didn't wow me as much. And there are a few cases even where I will let the book simmer in my mind and then I'll actually give it a higher rating because I think it deserved that. Let's talk now about the second thing to consider when reviewing books, and that is the type of review. Obviously, you can review any darn well way you please, but if you're having a bit of trouble deciding how, I'll talk you through a few of the ways that I've done it before. One extremely easy way to review books is the Procon method. You have the positives, you have the negatives, you're telling the reader both and letting them just decide for themselves. Because what is a con for you might not bother another reader and they might actually enjoy it and think of it as a pro, whereas what's a pro for you might tell them to steer clear of the book. Then there is the feels review, aka a gush review, where you just basically type, or speak, and let out every single fangirl thought. And then in editing, whether it's of the text or the video, you can go back and try to piece together your thoughts. But I think these kinds of reviews are best reserved for times when you just need to let it all out and you need to tell the world exactly how wonderful this novel was. Or an alternate title for this review could be a rant about how much you hated it, but we don't like those as much. Another type of review, which I haven't actually done myself, but I've seen it been done by Elizabeth Page, and I absolutely love this kind of review, is an update review where you film like every single day or every time something really major happens in the book and you discuss it as you go along, so you get to actually look back and see your opinions from the beginning, middle, and end of the novel. My personal favorite is a quote review, and it's pretty self-explanatory because you basically share a quote and then talk about it, and a lot of times the quote is usually beautifully written and it pertains to something in the story, and you can go through the elements of the book that way as well. Another type of review, which is less so much a type of review as just another way to review books in general, is a mini review where you review more than one book at a time. It really is easier if you want more concise thoughts or if you just don't have quite as much to say about it. Then we come to one of the most common reviews on BookTube, and while I have seen these in the blogging community, I don't see them quite as often, and that is the book talk, where you have a short non-spoilery section and then you completely let it loose. You gush about it, but usually it's in a more contained, more discussion-like manner. And just because we all need a self-promo once in a while, my last 2 book talks were Never All Is Sometimes by Adil Set and Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Sons. Then we come to the kind of review that I base pretty much all those other categories of review on, and that is where we break it down into the elements of the book. Within a month of me beginning written reviews on my blog as well as Goodreads, I had come up with these 14 categories of books. Obviously, I don't touch up on all of these, and you don't have to touch up on all of these, but I like to at least keep it in mind when I'm reviewing and thinking about a book to review. Those categories are plot, of course, what happens in the novel; premise, what the author presents the book to be about; characters, who's the story about, who are the opposing forces; the romance, most books have this, of course, it has to do with person, another person, falling in love, or maybe even more than 2 people, you never know. Originality, how much the premise promises to be something that you haven't necessarily read before, maybe a twist on something that's classic. The cover, because we all know we judge books based on their covers, and some of them are indeed gorgeous and some are hideous. Title, and this actually can tell you a lot or not tell you a lot about a story. For example, Daughter of Smoke and Bone, you really don't know what it's about, but it just sounds really cool. Or The Cellar, psychopath keeps a bunch of girls in his cellar. Really creepy, by the way. Feels, what the author made you feel, how much you related to it, just the emotions and the different issues they stirred in your mind, and the food for thought they gave you to chew on. Writing styles, this is one of the biggest ones that impacts my reading experience. Is it something really humorous, like Is Everybody Hanging Out Without Me by Mindy Kaling? Or is it something more scientific and psychological, like Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card? Or is it a darker tone novel, like Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Septes? Whatever it is, the word choice and the way way the author crafts their story definitely impacts your experience. Pacing, one of my personal favorites, whether the book was slow, whether it was fast, whether things happened one after another, or whether someone spent 3 pages describing a wave. The ending. Endings can impact your rating and impact your entire experience of the novel. They can change everything, or they won't change everything, and that probably is not a very good author. Quotes, if you want to share any specific excerpts from the novel. And conclusion, a last sentence to sum up all your thoughts and your main enjoyment of the story. I personally attempt to sound like the praise in the front and back of all books, but we all know I'm no New York Times bestselling author that can say,
a thrill ride of epic fantasy proportions, with assassinations, betrayal, love, and magic. This novel has something to match everyone's interests.
And there you have it, the 3 things to consider when you're reviewing novels. Obviously, I'm not a professional reviewer. I've just been doing this for almost 2 years now, and of course, everyone can do it differently. Everyone is affected by books differently. No reader reads the same book, and everyone is free to agree to disagree. These are just some tips and tricks on the ways I review books, and I hope they've helped. Tell me in the comments below if you agree with me, if you do anything different, if you have any original ideas for how to review books. I would love to hear it in a comment. Thank you so much for watching. Keep calm, read on, and I'll see you in a video soon. Goodbye! If you enjoyed watching me ramble on for eternity, give this video a big thumbs up and leave me a comment below. And if you liked it even more, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. All the social media I have is around my face at SLLovesBooks, and my previous videos are below me. Have a great night.